I'm about to show you a few products which I think are the most underrated makeup products. I can't wait to show you, but I'm also going to be showing you how to use them for the most flawless base. So stay tuned. As you can see, I have nothing on my face. The only thing I have on is a little bit of concealer on my eye area. I've got my brows done, a little bit of mascara, and that's it. But everywhere else, there is nothing on. So we're gonna get started with the first product. Now, these are all products that I think are underrated and give you a really amazing base. So first off, we're gonna get started with a moisturizer. Quite a few of these are from Kiko, and I find Kiko to be kind of like a in-between drugstore and high-end. So like it's not as cheap as drugstore, it's definitely not as expensive as high-end. For sure. Like a foundation is probably like 20 something dollars, whereas like drugstore is probably around 10, and then high end is anything from like 30, well actually 40 upwards. I'm going to use the Hydra Pro Glow Sublime Light Effect Moisturizing Cream. This is SPF 10 as well, and the great thing about this is it is good for all skin types. So I'm just going to use one pump of this. This is a super light moisturizer, so it's not heavy at all, and I feel like when you want that really good kind of like base, you want something which is quite light, nothing too heavy that's gonna make everything look oily later on. The next product is actually a setting powder, but this is any kind of setting powder you want. Honestly, this can be any setting powder. You don't have to use the setting powder that I'm using. I feel like this is underrated actually, this setting powder, because I don't hear enough about it by people. But this is my Makeup Forever Ultra HD powder in Light Banana. I just feel like it's just such an underrated product. Like, why are we not hearing more about this? I feel like this should be the most iconic setting powder ever, but it isn't. God knows why. But I want to apply this basically as my kind of like primer. So I'm going to show you how I do that. I'm going to get a big fluff brush and I'm going to dip it into my powder. And I am basically going to just do like a light dusting of this over my skin. I find that this really helps to kind of like disguise my acne scars, and also really helps to smooth the skin. Like I have a lot of acne scars here. You get different type of acne scars, like some are raised, some are more kind of like wide. Mine are, they're all called different names. Mine are kind of like the ice pick scars, which are horrible. I really, really hate it, but it's more so on this side. But that's kind of like, you get that when you have, it's kind of more of the severe scar because it's harder to get rid of because it's so fine and deep. You know, I just feel like I've just breathed all that in. So I'm just gonna go ahead and mattify my whole face, do a really nice, even kind of like dusting of powder. Now that we've done that, the next product that I'm going to use is something that I feel is underrated, and it's the Full Coverage 2-in-1 Foundation and Concealer by Kiko. This genuinely is something that gives you such an amazing base, but you don't actually need concealer with it, and that's what I love about it. So my shade is 050, and that's more on the olive side. Now this foundation is basically like, you can unscrew it like that, and it has that kind of like concealer tip, like that felt tip, but it's much bigger. So you can use this as your foundation and or your concealer. Personally, I think it's good as both, but what I'm gonna do is apply this, and I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna buff it into the skin. Now I'm just gonna literally just do a few dots here, just to show you on one side. And I've got the Kiko 05 brush, and I'm now just gonna start swirling this in. I'm really kind of like creating that nice kind of flawless base. I am going to go in with more, but I really just wanted to show you what a small amount can do. How amazing is that? I'm sorry, but tell me, is that not an underrated product? Like, why is no one going on about this? Like, look at that. And the finish it gives you on top of the powder is amazing. Okay, so now that we've done it all on that area, what I want to do is actually apply this as if it's my concealer. Right, so exactly the same way that I would apply my concealer. Again, I'm going to do one side so you can really see the difference first. I'm going to get my sponge. This is just a damp beauty blender. And I am just going to buff this in the exact same way that I would do with my concealer. Can we just, I mean, look how I have not had to use a concealer. That's insane. That is such amazing coverage. And you know what? It doesn't look like cakey. I'm just gonna do a couple of dots here, and I'm just gonna use the brush to just smooth this in. I love this because I just feel like you've got that amazing coverage and it doesn't look cakey. And I haven't had to use a separate concealer. So it's literally all in one product. I just feel like that's so underrated. And I know that there are foundations out there that people use kind of as concealer as well. Like they don't necessarily use a separate concealer. And there are concealers out there that people probably use all over their face as a foundation. But to have something that like genuinely like, you can use it as a foundation and concealer, because they formulated it as a concealer and foundation, it's not going to be like so super setting that it dries too quickly as a concealer or too fluid that it doesn't give you the coverage that you need. So it's been formulated in a way that they've ticked all those boxes. They've kept that in mind, and that's what I really love, and that's why I think this is so underrated. Like Kiko products, there are some products from Kiko that I absolutely love, and one of them is the eyebrow pomade. I think that that's a really good product, and I feel like this is the other one. This is so underrated. Like look at the difference. Look how I've got that full coverage on this side, and this side I haven't. So let's go ahead and actually apply this on this side now. And I'm just gonna do this the same way I did. And we're just gonna, in circular movements, just really kind of like buff this in. And it's super quick to apply, by the way, as well. I don't feel like you've got to spend ages applying it. Like literally that's it. And I would say you could use any kind of brush, to be honest. Like let me just do this forehead bit first. Like I don't think you have to use the Kiko brush, but I just think it's amazing coverage that it gives you. And I just like how you can use it for concealer and foundation. And even though it does say full coverage, I don't feel like it's like super cakey. Now, honestly, I could have kind of like looked around and thought, you know what, let me just grab like 5 things that are underrated, or I think that they're underrated. But I honestly wanted to keep it real with you. Like I don't always have 5 or 10 products that I think are underrated. Like I just want to pick what I genuinely feel is underrated. And those 2 things are, one is like a setting powder. The other is the full coverage 2-in-1 foundation concealer from Kiko, because I think it's actually really good. And I know a lot of you guys always say to me, you know, can we find a foundation that is good and flawless but isn't going to cost a ridiculous amount? And I feel like this is that. So don't forget to head on to the description for the link. There is one more product that I do think is underrated. I don't think it's spoken about enough, the same as these other products. So that product is my Doll 10 Super Coverage Concealer. Now, obviously we've already got this base on, but I just want to kind of like go over to show you how amazing this is too. And this is a concealer that gives you the most amazing flawless finish. The shade that I have here is medium. I do sometimes think it is a little bit light for me, but if I've got no tan, then it seems to be okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over this just with some of this concealer. It's going to brighten up my face a little bit, but I wouldn't necessarily put it with this foundation because I feel like you can get the concealer out of this foundation, but this is just a separate thing that I think is a really, really good kind of underrated product for a flawless base. So you could use this on its own. So this is where I'm just going to apply a little bit here. And this is probably going to really brighten up my face a bit because this is a bit lighter in color than what I've already applied. I'm just gonna buff this in. The coverage is pretty insane with this concealer. Like, so if you're looking for like a foundation and concealer in one, I'd go for the Kiko. But if you're just looking for an amazing concealer that is underrated, that isn't necessarily gonna like be crazy expensive either, then I'd go for the Doll 10. So now I'm gonna get my sponge and I'm just gonna buff this in on the under eye area. It really is a pretty amazing flawless finish that it gives you. Like, you're gonna see immediately. Look at that. That's crazy, right? That is pretty insane. Like, I've gone over obviously what I had, but honestly the coverage I would say for the Doll 10 concealer is like a foundation and concealer in one, genuinely. Like, even though it's just a concealer, it has such amazing coverage that I just feel like you may get away without any foundation. So I'm just gonna buff that in there. I am gonna set this after just for you guys to see. Now that I've done that, let me set that quickly. I'm just gonna set this with a brush. So I've got my Real Techniques brush. And I'm just gonna set this on the under eyes and then everywhere else. Then I've just got the big brush. I'm just gonna lightly dust this over. Just to show you how good this looks when, you know, you've got obviously like everything else on, because obviously at the moment it's quite flat, there's nothing else on, there's no kind of like definition anywhere. I'm going to use my one size Made for Shade Bronze and Sculpt Trio in medium dark trio, and I'm going to use the shade The Fix, and I'm just going to sculpt my face a little bit so it doesn't all look so kind of like flat. That's crazy, like as soon as you apply like some sculpting or bronzer or whatever, it just totally calms down your face. That's why I always say, like, don't get too crazy scared once you've applied your kind of base if you are going for a full glam look. Even if you're not, because I feel like once you've applied basic stuff like bronzer and a bit of blush, then it kind of calms everything down and it doesn't look so kind of like bright. Like already my face is just warmed up and I just don't look so kind of like, you know, how I did before. Let's just throw a little bit of lip liner on. That was just my Anastasia lip liner in Mocha. And I've already got a bit of mascara on, probably not really any on my lower lashes now, but that's fine. So this kind of gives you an idea as to like what that looks like. Those are my genuine few underrated makeup products. Again, didn't want to like bore you with stuff that I actually didn't feel that was underrated, but I do feel like these products are genuinely underrated. One of them just being a loose powder, but I feel like you could use any, but honestly, I personally feel like the Makeup Forever one is just so underrated. Like it genuinely is so much better, in my opinion, than the Laura Mercier translucent powder. Like the Makeup Forever one is way better than that. I just feel like it's way more fine milled and it isn't so chunky, and it's just, honestly, it is way better. I don't get why the other one is just so well known. I mean, obviously I just feel like a lot of it has, you know, to do with marketing and everything, which is a shame because people will fall for that, but they won't kind of like go out and try products to figure out for themselves if they like it. But you know, the other one is the Kiko Full Coverage Trim one. I mean, that is something that I feel like if you want something which is gonna tick every box for you, it is such a good foundation. Flawless finish, amazing. And then the other one, like I said, is the Doll 10 Concealer. Way underrated. I just feel like I don't hear enough about it. It's such a good concealer. If anything, I think it's on par to the Tarte Shape Tape with probably better coverage. There you go, I said it. Probably better coverage because it doesn't self-set as quick as the Tarte like Shape Tape does. But those are my few underrated products. I really do hope that you've enjoyed this. I hope this has been a nice short and sweet video for you to see what products you might want to go out and try. Definitely go out and try that Kiko product because I think you're going to love it. And yeah, I hope you have the most amazing week ahead. I hope you've had loads of positive vibes. If not, I'm sending loads your way. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell button so that you never miss any of my future videos. Until the next video, take care and I'll see you soon.